So did you know that you can profit from a football match by betting on a team that isn't playing and who hasn't kicked a ball? You can profit regardless of the fact that they're not even out on the pitch. Sounds a bit odd, but that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. If you're interested in learning to trade on Betfair, then visit the BetAngel Academy, where you have detailed, structured Betfair trading courses. Or why not visit our website where you can download a free trial of BetAngel Professional, but also visit the forum where you can get detailed images, examples, and downloadable files. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell icon if you want notification of new videos as they're released. So yeah, it does sound a bit odd. This is a trade that I've been doing for some time across a variety of markets. We're going to cover a specific example here that occurred in football recently. But if you trade any market where you've got an underlying match taking place and then a secondary market that's related to that particular match, whether it's a tennis match, a football match, or something similar to that, then you can profit at relatively low risk. So let's have a look at what we're talking about here and what this seemingly impossible trade is. And we're going to use a recent example, which is Liverpool. So the story behind Liverpool this season is pretty compelling. They've got off to a good start. They seem to be scoring at will. And we joined the action later on in January, where they just won a really thrilling match against Crystal Palace. They won 4-3 to go 7 points clear at the top of the Premier League. Now, at the start of the season, everybody thought that Man City were going to just whitewash the league. And, you know, you look at the disruption that you have with Spurs, who haven't bought any players, new managers at Chelsea, at Arsenal, the collapse of Man United, although they are currently on a resurgence as I record this video. So yeah, Man City were expected to be the runaway league winners, and that's more or less what happened in the market. You could see the odds on them were quite short to win the league, and they've been getting shorter and shorter. However, Liverpool have sort of not come out of nowhere, because they have been building up to this moment, have spent quite a bit of money, brought in some decent players. I hasten to add quite a few Southampton players. And, you know, they're putting up a real fight for the title, and they've got that little bit of momentum behind them. So yeah, they won on the 19th of January 4-3 against Palace to go 7 points clear, which is quite a wide margin considering there are 38 games in this league. And you can see that we're on match 23 on this illustration that is just behind me. And so, you know, we've got 15 matches left, 7 points over 15 matches. You can start to do the maths. You realise, you know, if they can keep that 0.5 per game advantage, the longer they can keep that lead going, then the more and more chance they've got of winning the league. So what do you think happened to their price? You know, do you think that the price of them winning the league is going to come in, or do you think it's going to go out? Well, necessarily the price is going to come in, especially when something like this happens. So, you know, Man City have been running away with it, but suddenly they slip up against Newcastle. So Liverpool had a 7-point lead, but City had a couple of matches to play. They won easily against Huddersfield, which seems to be the case for everybody this year. But then they lost unexpectedly to Newcastle. So all of a sudden, Man City had, Liverpool had a game advantage over City and were 4 points clear as well. So, you know, that is a pretty good scenario for them. Man City have got less games to complete the season. Liverpool have got slightly more, and they're 4 points clear as well. What a great position to be in. So at that particular point, this is what the winner market looks like for the Premier League. So you can see what I've done on the chart here is I've actually inverted the chart. So you can display the odds as implied probability, implied chance, or you can display them as odds. But when the chart is over a long period of time, sometimes it's actually quite hard to really look at the graph and get any decent information out of it. So I've just inverted it if you're wondering what we've done with this graph here. You can see I've ticked the inverse axis box. In fact, if I just highlight here, you can see the inverse axis is highlighted down here. So basically the red line here represents the chance of Liverpool winning the league title. So you can see it started at about 5s got stronger and stronger, then it fell away, and then obviously they've surged back. And then that little blip right at the end here is when Liverpool, well, rather, I mean, Liverpool didn't kick a ball, but City won against Huddersfield and then lost against Newcastle. Suddenly the odds have shot up because they're 4 points clear and a game in hand. And you can see that they were matched quite extensively at odds of about sort of 140-ish. When I snapshotted this chart, it was 141. But they did get matched for small amounts of money at 139. In contrast, the price of City winning the league had shot out to 4s. So, you know, there was quite a difference between the two teams at that particular point. So we then trundle on to the next set of matches. But what happens here is this presents an opportunity for you. Because if we look at the way that this is playing out here, then, you know, Liverpool to win the league, they're going to have to maintain that gap right until the end of the season. It's only 4 points, and they do have a game in hand, so some of it would be reliant upon what happens in the next game. But basically, we're sort of saying that Liverpool are going to win the league or maintain that gap or perhaps grow it between now and the end of the season. So you look at things like this and you're thinking, well, the market is more or less saying that Liverpool are going to win the next game. If Liverpool win the next game, they may shorten ever so slightly. But of course, Man City aren't exactly a weak team, so they're not going to give up the title without a fight. So the scenario we have, if we back Liverpool to win the Premier League at this particular moment in time, we may see the price contract a little bit. However, if we lay Liverpool at such a short price, if they failed to go on and maintain that gap to Man City, or take advantage of their game in hand, then what's going to happen? The price is going to go rocketing back out again. And when you're trading, this is the essence of what you're trying to capture all of the time. You know, throw away sort of vanilla systems which go if this, then that, then do this, then that, and then press this on the 85th minute and whatever, blah, blah, blah. What you're trying to do whenever you're trading is you're trying to say, how much upside can I capture with the minimum of downside? I'm very, very focused on trying to find scenarios where that is likely to occur. So this is one of those scenarios, because backing Liverpool doesn't have a huge amount of upside. However, laying Liverpool for the title does have a bit of upside, because, you know, the scenario is the only way that that price could shorten would be if Manchester City completely mess the whole thing up, or Liverpool win every single match between now and the end of the season and gain even more momentum. So you're basically saying you've got a little bit of downside, but potential for quite a bit of upside. The only thing you don't know is over what period of time. But basically you can capture a reasonable slice, a decent bit of expectancy there. And that's really what you're doing every time you trade on every single market. It's not the system or the process you're looking at necessarily. You're looking at what's my downside and is there good potential upside on this. And when the two get balanced quite well, then you give it a go. So yeah, I mean, if you follow football closely, you'll know what happened next. Basically, Liverpool went to Leicester City and on the 30th of January, and they didn't go to Leicester City. Leicester City went to Liverpool, and they could only draw. So as a consequence, you know, that gap at the top of the Premier League is not looking so smart all of a sudden. They're level on points, and there's only 5 points to go. And then, of course, and I have to say that this was the unexpected thing that occurred here, was they went away to West Ham and they drew that match as well. But also, you know, this opportunity presents itself well. This is only something that occurs where you have staggered start times or uncorrelated sort of moments within a sport. So one of the advantages that we've got, you know, I hate the fact that there's so much money in football and that it always goes to the big teams, because that sort of, you know, ruins the spectacle of football, I think, really. It's a bit unbalanced overall in the grand scheme of things. But one of the advantages that you have from a trading perspective is that the football rights dictate the order of play, and what they tend to do is split up the matches. When I was young, I used to go to a football match and they would all kick off at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, and we would get the pink sheets where you would, you know, pick it up on the way back from the ground. You'd be reading all of the scores as they came out. That was the first thing. No internet in those days, you youngsters, but you would basically read the newspaper as you left the ground and went back to your car. So, but of course now what you tend to find is that, you know, all of those matches are staggered out, and that's what presents this opportunity, because we had Liverpool drawing against Leicester at home. They went away to play West Ham and drew. But of course, the Man City match came up against Everton just a couple of days later. So suddenly we go from this several points clear and a game in hand to suddenly the whole thing swings back round in the other direction. So, that's what presented this opportunity. We had the opportunity to back Liverpool at 133, or we could have laid Liverpool at 133. But given the schedule that was coming up, we couldn't tell how those matches were going to go. We were just looking at the potential for some upside with minimum downside, according to the position that we took within the market. And what was that? Well, if you look at exactly what's happened subsequently from there, you can see we could have got involved with Liverpool at very, very short odds. But even if we got involved at sort of 140 or thereabouts, somewhere around that level, you would have had still potential upside, because after that little set of results, suddenly we find Liverpool are out at 246. It would have been a monster trade, whether you get in at 133 rather, 1.4 or even 1.5. You would have had plenty of opportunity and plenty of upside there. And if they would have won and moved on from there, then it wouldn't have been a significant amount of downside. We've got 100. So if we'd put £100 down, we would have made £100 on this trade. But on the short side, maybe we'd have lost about sort of, £10 of that if the price would have come in and Liverpool would have been a little bit more consistent. As it were, however, they were not consistent, and that's where the opportunity from this trade came from. So if you think about the way that this trade works, you can do it on other markets as well. So say, for example, you have a tennis tournament and you've got somebody at very short odds to win the tennis tournament. They still have to play through the round of 128 in a Grand Slam, 64, 32, 16, 8, 4, and then eventually into the final. So there are many opportunities for them to slip up on the way to the final and to perhaps win the tournament. So you can oppose them in the market at relatively short odds without too much potential downside, subject to the way that the draw is laid out. That's the caveat I put in on tennis. On football, it's a bit clearer because you know the matches that are coming up and who they're going to play. On tennis, you don't particularly know that, so there's added risk there. But again, in tennis, the starts will be staggered, so that will help you as well. But you can do this in a number of different sports in a number of different ways. But by linking to dependent markets and looking at the up and downside risk on each of those, it gives you the opportunity to profit, even though the team that you're looking at probably isn't even playing. A very neat strategy that you may want to consider at either end of the table as the season progresses. So yeah, there you go. That's how you can profit without a team even kicking a ball in a football match. So after I finished that main section, it suddenly popped into my head that one of the things people were going to say when they see this video is, well, how did you know that was going to happen? Well, this is the thing about a very effective trading, is that you're not necessarily looking at that. You're assessing the chances of it occurring over a period of time, the potential. You're not saying that it's definitely going to happen. What you're looking for is something with minimal downside and large upside, but you can't define particularly a lot of the times when that is going to happen. You're just saying it's going to happen at some period of time. Now, there is a bit of maths you can do behind this to quantify it, but will go over most people's heads. However, you have a period, a window of opportunity. I've often talked in other videos about this, especially in tennis, where you frame a trade and you say, this is the potential downside, this is the potential upside, and here's the window in which it's going to occur. And that's what we're playing at. We just didn't expect it to occur so quickly, and Liverpool did us a huge favour on this particular occasion. However, one thing I wanted to point out to you with this trade is if you were alert to it and you knew what the scenario was and the potential impact that it would have on the market, you could have still profited on this occasion, even without prior knowledge or thinking it through before it happened. So after Liverpool drew at West Ham 1-1, their odds slumped. You can see on this chart here, you can see the implied chance of them winning the league suddenly sort of just started to fall backwards. But the interesting thing about this is I took this screenshot immediately after the final whistle blew at West Ham and they hadn't won. And you can see that their odds were 218 for the title. So it slipped quite a bit already. However, look at the one on the right, which was taken about 20 minutes later. You can see that even after the match had ended, the price still continued to move. As people began to digest the consequences of that result, the price started to move anyway. So you can see that there was still a fair amount of upside here that you could have had immediately after the match had finished. So regardless of whether you set yourself up for this opportunity, which is where I tend to be most of the time, or whether you reacted immediately after this particular result, you could have profited anyway. So yeah, you know, trading is all about looking at the minimal downside, biggest upside, a window of opportunity, but sometimes the opportunity persists even after the scenario that you're looking for has occurred. So yeah, anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in on the end of the video. If you want to get more information on strategies and stuff, we're going to try and give away as much as we can at the BetAngel Academy. We're going to improve the range of courses that we've got there this year. So nip over there, register, and then as new stuff becomes available, we'll endeavour to let people know. But yeah, plenty of content coming there this year, and we're going to make it the best place that you can get if you want to learn how to trade effectively on Betfair.